Welcome to Karma's Harvest. Today, we witness a tale of profound irony, where a man's attempt to harvest a future he didn't sow resulted in the loss of a fortune he thought he had secured in the shadows. Marriage is often described as a partnership, a union of two souls navigating the unpredictable currents of life. But for Mark and Sarah, the currents were moving in opposite directions from the very start. Sarah was a woman of relentless ambition and discipline. When they met, she was finishing her residency in specialized surgery, a path paved with sleepless nights and staggering student debt. Mark, on the other hand, was a man who preferred the scenic route of life, often drifting between entrepreneurial ventures that never quite launched. Funded largely by Sarah's grueling shifts, their marriage lasted only 24 months. It was a brief chapter that Sarah was eager to close, recognizing that their values were fundamentally misaligned. However, Mark saw their parting not as an end, but as a final business opportunity. When the divorce papers were filed, Mark did something that shocked even the most seasoned legal clerks. He didn't just ask for alimony or a split of their modest bank accounts. He sued Sarah for half of her future earnings. His argument, presented with a straight face, was that his emotional support during her residency was a direct investment in her future career as a surgeon. He claimed that because she was now on the verge of earning a seven-figure salary, he was entitled to a dividend of her life for the next decade. It was a bold, perhaps even delusional display of entitlement. Sarah was devastated. She had spent years saving lives, while Mark spent his days networking at local bars. Now he wanted to be a silent partner in her future labor. The discovery phase of a trial is a meticulous process. It is the time when the shadows are illuminated by the cold light of documentation. Sarah's attorney, a sharp woman named Eleanor, felt something was off. Mark seemed too confident, too comfortable for someone claiming financial hardship. Eleanor began to dig, not just into what Mark had, but into what he spent. A series of small, inconsistent breadcrumbs began to appear. A high-end watch purchased in cash, a weekend trip to a luxury resort that didn't appear on any credit card statement. And then, the smoking gun, a deposit into a domestic shell account, opened just 3 months before the divorce filing. The day of the final hearing arrived. Mark sat at the plaintiff's table, adjusting his expensive tie, ready to claim his stake in Sarah's future. His lawyer spoke passionately about matrimonial investment and the sacrifice Mark had made. When it was Eleanor's turn, she didn't talk about Sarah's future. She talked about Mark's past. "Your Honor," Eleanor began, her voice calm, but echoing through the silent courtroom. "My client is being asked to hand over the fruits of her future labor to a man who claims they were a team. But a team implies honesty. A team implies shared fortune." She placed a document on the judge's bench. It was a certified record from the State Lottery Commission. 3 months before Mr. Miller filed for divorce, he purchased a winning power play ticket. The prize was $4.2 million. He opted for a lump sum payment, which he promptly funneled into a private trust without ever informing his wife. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. The air became heavy. Mark's face drained of color, turning a sickly shade of gray. The emotional support he had bragged about was revealed to be a calculated lie. He had stayed in the marriage just long enough to secure his hidden windfall, planning to leave Sarah with her debts while he walked away with millions. And then, in an act of pure avarice, he decided to try and take half of her future, too. Judge Holloway, a man known for his intolerance of legal theater, stared at Mark for a long minute. The silence was deafening. "Mr. Miller," the judge said, his voice dropping an octave, "you came into this court claiming equity. You asked for a share of a future that has not yet happened based on a partnership. You were already betraying in the present. In this state, the law is clear regarding the fraudulent concealment of marital assets." The judge leaned forward. "You didn't just hide a win, Mr. Miller. You attempted to use this court as a tool for extortion. You wanted the court to grant you the sweat of your wife's brow. While you sat on a mountain of gold, you refused to share. The gavel didn't just fall, it thundered. The court finds that by hiding the lottery winnings, you have forfeited your claim to them under the principle of unclean hands. Furthermore, as a penalty for your deliberate fraud and bad faith litigation, I am awarding the entirety of the $4.2 million lottery prize to the defendant, Sarah. Additionally, your request for future earnings is denied with prejudice. Mark sat frozen. In his attempt to take what he didn't deserve, he had lost everything he had tried to hide. He had walked into the courtroom looking for a payday and walked out with nothing but a legal bill and a reputation in ruins. Sarah didn't gloat. She simply closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The debt of her education was gone, but more importantly, the weight of a dishonest man was lifted from her life. It was a harvest she hadn't expected, but it was exactly what justice demanded. Because in the end, life has a way of balancing the scales. Greed may plant the seeds, but karma always decides who gets to reap the crop. Thank you for joining us at Karma's Harvest. Remember, the seeds you sow in secret will eventually find the light.